Howdy, y'all. Today we're going to be looking at some creepy and strange TikToks revolving around Siri. Let's giddy up.
What is the next tallest thing we built? Stable structure after the pyramids.
What?
The Eiffel Tower.
Really?
Yes, late 1800s in Paris, the Eiffel Tower.
Huh.
That was the first stable structure we built as a civilization that was taller than the pyramids. So the Egyptians knew architecture. Those rocks are nowhere in the region. They found a place where those rocks were mined. And those are some big-ass rocks.
The thing about the pyramids that's so impressive is the precision.
You know, revolving around like the pyramids and how they were built, it was said that I think it might have been in DC where it took, I think, about 90 days worth of planning. And I want to say hundreds of thousands, if not close to over $1 million to end up being able to transport just a fraction of what one of the bricks of one of the pyramids weighed. So it's just crazy to think, like, you think about all the different mechanisms and ways, I've heard about, vibration being able to be used to, or being one of their methods back in the day for building the pyramids. So it's just crazy. So like, what kind of technology was it that was used to build the pyramids if we don't have today's technology to be able to make them as precise and perfect like they are?
And the sheer numbers, 2,600,000 stones.
Our best understanding of Stonehenge is that it's a functioning observatory that can actually predict eclipses.
One of my favorite conspiracy theories ever is the Paul is dead conspiracy. Paul McCartney in 1966 was in a car accident, died, and then the record executives swapped him with a lookalike that they had reconstructive plastic surgery on.
Oh my God.
The Beatles, following that period.
There was another conspiracy theory that I heard that about Paul McCartney being replaced. And it was for a different reason as far as how influential he was for his time. And it said that the government was worried about him swaying the polls or different political views. So that was another theory that I heard about for, him being replaced with somebody else.
Period of time had so much guilt and trauma from it that they hid clues in everything for it. People always point to the Abbey Road album art and they say, this is the Beatles trying to tell you what happened because Paul is in a suit, he's got no shoes on, he's the corpse. John is in all white, he's Jesus.
They're just looking for the confirmation bias of their existing belief.
Can you hear someone being murdered in a song? This theory says yes. Now, if you're a hardcore conspiracy theorist, I know you've heard of Love Roller Coaster. It is said that during the song, you can hear a woman being killed in the background. And I know you want to hear it, so here you go. Now, this is...
Okay, you know what? Just by those few seconds that was played, I have heard that song, never knew the name of it. But that is really eerie. It really does sound like there's a woman being unalived.
Not the only instance where you can hear a potential murder being recorded in a song. A song called Kissland by the artist The Weeknd is actually being accused of the same issue. Listen to this. Now, after taking a trip to the dark web, I learned that this theory goes even deeper. Killing somebody during the recording of a song can cause negative energy to be built up within the song. Theorists believe that when you listen to these songs, the negative energy will destroy you from the inside out. And in some of the worst songs, you can't even hear the screams.
Something really scary.
It really does make you wonder. I mean, I have heard, because I listen to, quite a few different genres of music. One of them being hip hop, and there's one song that I've heard, I'm not going to name it, but where it sounds like there's a man being tortured, and it always makes you wonder, like, why they throw these certain sounds in songs, and aside from that, if it's like actual something that's really happening.
Scary is going on with Doja Cat right now, and it's caused so many conspiracy theories to get started, but all of those theories can be debunked by the simple fact that Doja Cat is playing a character, Scarlet, all to get your attention. Scarlet is the name of Doja Cat's new album and her new tour, and right when this era began, Doja Cat started donning this red, evil appearance and saying things to her fans like, leave a comment oozing with jealousy, insecurity, or malice below. Your protesting is only support. And as we know, Doja has been downright bullying her fans. So the biggest conspiracy theory right now is that people think that Doja Cat wants out of the music industry and out of her contract.
I'm not your friend. I'm not your friend.
And by pushing away all her fans, she could expedite her contract. But that's not true, because if Doja really wanted out of her contract, she would make music that she doesn't believe in and doesn't perform well because her label wouldn't make any money. But her new song, Paint the Town Red, is doing very well. And in that song, she admits she still wants to be famous. She just doesn't need fans, but she needs attention.
I don't need a new fan, cause my boo like it. Fame ain't something that I need no more, cause bitch, I said what I said. I
just want to mute that guy. I don't
to love or hate her.
My happiness is all of your misery.
She's only happy with your misery because it's getting her attention. The second theory is that did Doja Cat join the Illuminati and that's why she's acting so evil and demonic? Because even on the cover art of her new single, the A is upside down, so it looks like a devil and his horns, but it's actually specifically the A that's upside.
You know, we'll get one thing. Something's definitely taking a turn, and there's something that is definitely off. Because if y'all notice or look back, whenever she was first putting out music, it was more lighthearted, and it didn't have these dark, sinister, undertones. And then now, the music videos, you just seeing like a 3 or 5 second clip just speaks for itself. I'm not gonna say that I think that whether it be Illuminati or whatever, kind of secret, society type deal, but there's something sinister and dark that is taking over, and I think it's very, very apparent of that.
Upside down because it's an upside down scarlet letter. It's becoming clear that Doja Cat crafted this image of Scarlet to represent the old tale of having a scarlet letter, or basically a woman who was shamed for going against societal norms. And Doja has been judged and canceled for a whole long list of things in the last 4 years. I think Doja Cat got sick of 4 years of fame and scrutiny by society, so this Scarlet character is the overdramatic version of her that she's using to give a middle finger back to society that judged her. So now she's acting like the devil that society has made her out to be all these years and doing the exact opposite of what society would want. So she's being a rebel, hence the chorus of the song.
She the devil, she a bad little bitch, she a rebel, she beautiful.
Jesus Christ, the Adam and Eve video. I watched a video on that this morning. There could be a time where the magnetic poles actually shift.
This is science. They say that the last one was like 778,000 years ago, and we're like something like 200,000 years overdue. But the Adam and Eve story, the theory of that is that it happens in cycles of 6,500 years, and that it's a 90-degree flip, but 6 days later, or on the 7th day, it corrects itself.
Planet flips.
Correct. It's a planet flip 90-degree, and that because of it, the Earth essentially does a standstill. The sun will be basically stay in the same spot, causing heating like we've never experienced, and that the wind and the waters continue with their momentum, because essentially the wind travels at approximately 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So the theory is that when that event happens, it's going to be cataclysmic. And
with like a lot of different theories and the thought behind them, I find a lot of them interesting. And just because I find it interesting doesn't necessarily mean that I find it to be true, but I like to let my mind wander about a lot of these different theories. So I mean that's an interesting one, but firm believer in the one that created us. So.
Did you know that in reality, everyone is already dead? It's said that when a person dies, their brain stays alive for 7 long minutes. During this time, the brain recreates memories, replaying them in a dream state. The individual sees his whole life flash before his eyes. Time elapses differently when you're awake than when you're dreaming. 7 minutes can seem like 7 minutes, or a century. Stephen Hawking has said that when we discover the God particle, or the Higgs boson, as some call it, the end of the world could happen in a day. And in 2012, we discover it. And if the world really did end in 2012, and if it did happen in an instant, and we've all been living in our own consciousness ever since, perhaps that's why, since 2012, the world has seemed increasingly strange, unreal, and absurd, as if we are all stuck in a never-ending dream. Our perceptions of reality have become distorted, blurring the lines between what is real and what is imagined. It's a perplexing thought that leaves us questioning the nature of our existence and the true boundaries of our consciousness.
I don't know, it makes me wonder, if, especially if you have you hooked up to a machine, and whenever the line is showing your heart rate, whenever it flatlines, and if we do, if the brain does stay active for 7 minutes, I wonder if there's a way to kind of like see that, or if there's a way to measure that, to actually prove and show some kind of evidence for that being the case, because I do believe that, yes, whenever, just like think about when we sleep, it may seem like it's such a short amount of time, but it seems like it was such a long span just based on what our dream is. So it could feel like it was, hours or even longer. And then you could realize, wake up, it could have been just half an hour or 5 hours. So it's interesting.
It's been 8 weeks since the Ocean Gate sub imploded at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, and the real story is way weirder than you think. Because on June 18th...
Sorry, I'm not going to stop again. But it's just crazy because with everything that's taken place so far, now we're in the beginning of February, it's just crazy to think about how much has happened. And I'm not going to lie, I almost forgot about the whole submarine situation.
2023, the Titan submersible carrying Hamish Harding, Stockton Rush, Shahzada, and Suleiman Dawood, and P.H. Nargile descended to the remains of the Titanic in this. And this thing was made out of steel end caps that were glued to a carbon fiber hull, something that is never supposed to be done with deep sea submersibles.
And, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me.
Engineers and experts have pointed out since this disaster that the doomed sub was on its 5th...
That's crazy that you broke some rules. You say it on camera. You knew you had did some stuff that went against science and engineering. And still went through the whole process of sending these people on what you had built.
Trip down to the Titanic wreckage. And with each descent, the carbon fiber hull likely weakened further and further until finally, on its 5th voyage, it failed completely. And that weakening likely began at the points where the carbon fiber hull had been glued to the steel end caps. And all of this happened because Stockton Rush, the founder of Ocean Gate and the designer of the Titan, cut corners to reduce costs and to pose as a technological innovator. Because the weird thing about all of this is the technology to descend to that depth and beyond exists.
I'm sorry, but if you got all that money and you decide to cut cost, and then you end up costing people their lives, just so you could save a few bucks. I don't know how much he tried saving, but it's not worth a life. And I feel very confident that he very well could have afforded going through the process, doing it the right way, and having it built the way that it should have been built.
And it's already been perfected. Because here's the thing, the Titanic wreckage is 2.5 miles beneath the ocean surface. But submersibles have made it much deeper safely. James Cameron, who actually directed the movie Titanic, descended 6.8 miles below the surface of the ocean in the deep sea Challenger submersible, which holds the world record for deepest dive. And in fact, Stockton's design was called out by one of his safety engineers back in 2018, as this employee raised concerns over the structural integrity of the vessel. And rather than getting a raise and a pat on the back for doing a good job at his job, Stockton Rush fired this employee and went on to sue him. And the issues with the sub go beyond the carbon fiber hull being glued to the steel end caps, because carbon fiber is manufactured through a process where small carbon fiber strands are woven together and set up and hardened with a resin and carbon fiber. While very light and strong as a material, it flexes and responds to stress differently than steel does, which makes it a terrible material to use for a deep-sea submersible. The Titan sub likely experienced non-linear stress distributions and distortions throughout its hull with every dive, weakening it every time it went below the surface of the ocean. Now, the crazy thing about this is Stockton Rush was aware of this. So aware, in fact, that within the structure of the hull, he installed an RTM, or real-time monitoring system, that would issue an alert if it sensed that the hull was under significant stress. And that's exactly what we think happened with the Titan sub, and this is how it all played out. We have unconfirmed leaked logs from the mothership, the Polar Prince, and the Titan on its doomed voyage. The Titan had been descending normally for 96 minutes when the first issues began to arise. At 9:28:16, the Titan says, "We're noting an alarm from the RTM, the real-time monitoring system that Stockton Rush had installed in the hull, reducing velocity descent depth to 3,433 meters." At this point, they're 1.2 miles beneath the surface of the ocean. For perspective, this 1/12th scale model of the sub that I 3D printed, if this represents the actual size of the Titan, and this drone represents the mothership, the Polar Prince, this is how far beneath the surface of the ocean the Titan was when things started to go wrong. At 9:28:47, the Polar Prince says,
"Understood, you need to ascend."
At 9:30:55, the Titan says, "No change with thrust. The rate of descent is increasing. At 35, going to release the ballast now. Stand by."
"Yes, agreed. Release the ballast."
At 9:32:12, the Titan responds, "No improvement. Preparing to jettison the frame."
"Affirmative. Update when able. RTM indicator status?"
"Frame jettisoned. Multiple attempts needed, but starting the ascent now." So while the Titan was down there, it seems like there were multiple initial attempts to release the ballasts and the frame that failed. And this is confusing when we read the logs, and the Polar Prince also seemed confused by this detail in communication. And we can see this in the logs. The Polar Prince says,
"Multiple attempts. What's your..."
I mean, I can't be surprised that they were having issues with the release, because I mean, if the whole design of that submersible was flawed and was cut corners to be built in the first place, I hate that happened and that they were having issues with it. But I mean, I can't be surprised that they were. I mean, had it been done properly, they probably wouldn't have been having issues with that.
Status. RTM indicators. Depth. Update, please, when able.
At 9:38:44, again, Polar Prince,
"Can you identify source? RTM indicator status."
The Titan has been silent for over 4 minutes at this point. And then finally, they respond. At 9:40:12, the Titan says negative.
RTM status.
At 9:42:12, the Titan responds with this: "Trying to run diagnostics, ascending now, but very slow. Sounds have subsided. Global RTM alert active, all red." At this point, the souls on the Titan have been listening to the hull crackle, pop, and stress, all while their internal systems are flashing red. At 9:42:57, the Polar Prince says,
"Understood. Any codes? Depth. Ascent rate. Updates when able, please."
Titan responds, "Slow ascent in progress. Quarter predicted. Unclear why rate is small. No indicator. At 3476, aiming for the surface." The Titan at this point had released its ballasts and its frame, and was presumably using its thrusters to try to ascend to the surface, but the vessel was essentially neutrally buoyant, and the rate was extremely slow. Only 43 feet every 15 minutes. And then we get the last communications between the mothership and the Titan. Polar Prince at 9:44:03.
"We're talking it over with the engineer. Stand by. Depth and status, please. What's the wattage on upwards thrust?"
Titan at 9:46:37, its final transmission. "Reading red on the A power bus. I switched to B. At 3457 meters, more sounds aft." The Titan indicates that there are more noises coming from the failing hull. And that's the last communication that we have from the Titan. Because in the 20 minutes that spanned during this communication period, the Titan had only risen 23 meters, or 75 feet towards the surface. And they'd been using their thrusters to make that ascent, consuming power that wasn't designed to be used to drive to the surface, because releasing the ballast and releasing the frame hadn't worked. And those thrusters eventually drained all power from the vessel, where experts think the sub finally went totally dark before pitching forward, throwing all crew members towards the front porthole section of the sub as it entered a freefall dive for over 900 meters, or a half mile before it finally imploded. Now here's where things get really crazy. First is what happened to the crew. They were conscious during this entire freefall, and they endured a half-mile freefall descent into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean in the pitch black, all the while hearing cracks and failing within the carbon fiber hull. So for over a minute, the crew was experiencing pure terror as they descended to what they knew would be their doom. And then, nothing. Because of the depth that the Titan was at, experts and physicists have said that the crew members, in fractions of a second, went from being in a state of biology to being in a state of physics, meaning that their bodies, in a fraction of a second, were literally reduced.
I couldn't even imagine what they were thinking throughout the time that the failures started happening, and even the release of the ballast and trying to ascend to the surface, getting to that point whenever everything was just failing, and then just sinking slowly down to the bottom, and getting to that point whenever everything does just kind of implode. I couldn't even imagine.
To particulate, because the pressure at that depth would have literally vaporized any biological elements within the hull capsule in milliseconds. But the really strange thing about the whole Titan story is that both the Navy and the Coast Guard picked up the sound of the implosion on their underwater monitoring devices, and they were able to communicate with the Polar Prince directly. So all of the decision makers surrounding this disaster knew as soon as the sub had imploded that all 5 members on board and the sub were lost. Yet the Coast Guard and the United States government allowed the media, or maybe worked with the media, to run with this wild narrative that had the entire world glued to their seats, which was this premise that there were 5 men trapped at the bottom of the Atlantic in a submersible running out of oxygen who needed to be rescued. And rescue efforts were deployed. Millions of dollars in resources and funds were expended searching for and trying to save a crew that had already been confirmed as lost. Everyone involved with that rescue operation at the top knew those people were gone. And the question that still remains to be answered is why. So what do you think?
Have you heard about the pyramid they found in Antarctica? Well, we've all seen pyramids in Egypt, Mexico, and Peru.
Actually, recently, I heard about it. Haven't looked into it a whole lot, but the one that they discovered in Africa, I'd actually had heard about one that was discovered, at least possibly the tip of one. I want to say it was in Michigan. And then not even just Michigan. There's actually, I want to say Arizona, and a few different other states where there are pyramids within the U.S. So it almost just makes you wonder, as far as geographically, if we've been just, lied to and deceived growing up as far as what countries there are, where they are, the states and everything like that,
But recent satellite data as of 2016 confirms that the biggest pyramid in the world may actually be in Antarctica. And there's some pretty strange stuff going on in that area. Like Buzz Aldrin's trip back in 2016, when apparently he went on an expedition to check out this pyramid for himself, but something happened, and he ended up hospitalized for a few days. But when he got out of the hospital, he made a really strange tweet that was quickly deleted. It said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." So what did he find? What did he see? Did he make it to the pyramid? Then there's size. This could very well...
Right, that is, just really odd, just to end up making a posting and that being what you said. I don't know how you could take that any other way.
Will be the biggest pyramid on Earth if it's real. And to put things into perspective, the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza is about 230 meters wide. This pyramid in Antarctica would have a base that's 2,000 meters wide. So this thing is massive. And the more you look around, the more strange things you see that don't look natural. Like this giant line in the snow with objects poking out of the top. Or how about that big hole over there? What is that? Some kind of cave entrance? Because if it's Antarctica, there's no way that's water. And then you have other pyramid-looking structures like these that look oddly symmetric for something found in nature. Now, when you combine...
is what he said. Can't be a puddle of water or any kind of object of water being in Antarctica. But I bet you somebody somewhere is probably like, oh, I bet you that's a body of water. That's a small little... Really? In Antarctica? Okay.
Combine this with the fact that we now know through core samples that Antarctica once was a tropical climate. That begs the question, who built these structures and who was actually living there? Was it humans or was it aliens?
There's also a conspiracy theory about a movie that came out recently too.
What movie?
The Sound of Freedom. That whole thing is trying to give awareness about child right? There's theories, everyone who's gone into movies to watch it, the movie theaters have teamed up.
They stopped it.
Yeah, trying not to sell tickets, trying not
You know, I had heard about this, and they might be touching on it too, but where not only trying to disrupt the movie, but also there'd be some people who would go try to see it in theaters, and the movie theater would say, "Oh, we're sold out." Or if the individuals did get in, they would make it very unbearable to sit there or try to attempt to while people are sitting there trying to watch it, whether it be keeping the lights on during the showing or having the heat on during the showing, just any way that they could to try to disrupt it.
For people to watch it.
Yeah.
I've seen one where it's like, oh, the person tries to buy tickets. They said it's fully sold out. Goes in the movie theater, nobody there.
There's no one in here.
See?
And then it said that they were sold out.
Another one, the guy comes in, he's like, oh, we have to download the movie. It's gonna take an hour. We can give you your movie back. Like, you guys can walk out. Fam,
They're like
that
trying to-
never happens.
They're trying to stop them from watching it.
Exactly. And the two main ones they have been doing, turn off the AC so it's hot as hell in there.
Oh, word.
And then
Just to let you guys know again, it is gonna get hot. It is gonna be like that throughout the whole movie.
So why is it only this one though, not all the other ones?
in movies usually,
Yeah.
dim the lights when it goes on. The lights stay on the whole time, and people complain.
So they don't want to stay there and watch the whole thing. There's a deeper conspiracy.
I'm sorry, but if a movie theater is willing to do that, it's pointless because, I mean, think about the percentage of people who go to movie theaters now versus just going to online, whether it be Amazon, Netflix, whatever have you, whatever platform, and you stream movies. So it's like I said, the number of people who stream versus the movie, people that go to the movie theaters and actually watch a movie, it's such a big difference. So I don't see how the movie theaters think they're going to make a difference in trying to keep people from seeing the movie. Just
Onto that.
Well, everybody, that's it for today's video. I really hope y'all enjoyed. And if you did, please like, comment down below, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Yeah, it's been fun. And let me know what y'all think. Till next time.